afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well. Firstly, apologies that I haven't had a video out in the last couple of weeks. I did make one attempt and went to a mark, but the weed situation was absolutely diabolical. I got to the venue, put a test cast out, and before I could even begin to get the rest of the gear set up, the rig was round on the beach with 6 foot of weed from the leader up to the rod top, so that ended up being abandoned, and since then I haven't really had a chance to get out. But what you will notice is from today, obviously today's weather is very overcast. We've got drizzles of rain as I leave, and I think we're expecting a few showers later on this afternoon, and then it's going to get really heavy from 7 p.m. onwards. So I thought I'd grab the opportunity this afternoon. I've got a little bit of fresh bait left over from Monday. See if I can nip down and have another go at this venue. So the plan today is I'm going to head down to a beach named Covehithe, and that's sandwiched between Kessingland and Southwold. It's in the middle between those two. So my drive today is going to be down to Beccles, and then from Beccles through some back roads and heading off where I'll cross the A12 and on to Covehithe. It's around about 35 miles from my home, and it's given me a driving time of 1 hour, so I don't know if that's the traffic or the little roads or whatever, but it's going to take me around about an hour to get there. So fingers crossed I can get there, get parked, which is another thing I'll explain once we're nearer, and then get some gear on and get down onto the beach. One thing I will notice is that, it was, if we go back, taking out the presentation video I put up, the last actual fishing video I did, which was a revisit to Shingle Street, I think when I got there early afternoon that day, it would have been about 23 or 24 degrees and very, very hot and sticky. I think it's going to be a slightly different proposition today. Looking at this, we've got a temperature in the car now of 11 degrees. So it may even be a little bit cooler than that on the coast, especially with this miserly rain. But that doesn't really bother me. Once I get there and get set up, it is what it is. If anything, it'll make where I've got to go easier because of the parking situation. There's very limited parking at this mark, and what you actually have to do is park up around about, I think it's 600 or 700 metres from the beach access, up a little lane in a lay-by, and then walk your gear down. It's a decent walk. It's a flat, nice road. You just can't take your car down there, so if we get a little break in the rain, that would be a bonus. Get down there, get set up, and we'll run through what we're actually going to do today. Species wise, I'm probably expecting, the reports have been of quite a few smallish bass. You do get the odd better one mixed in. There's been plenty of soles caught in the last couple of weeks, so that's what I'll base my sort of initial approach on. I'll put probably one rod out for a sole with tiny little baits on tiny little hooks, and a slightly bigger setup for maybe a bass. So as I say, once we get down nearer the mark, I'll bring you back just to show you the access and the parking, and then we'll take it from there. So we just crossed the A12 at Wrentham, and then we just took this little country lane, and this follows all the way down to the church where we're hoping to park. As I said before, the parking is a little bit limited down this way. There's the church up ahead. So if there's no parking at the church, you can see they literally park on the side of the road, which is probably where we're going to be parking, to be fair. I will have a look up here in case the lay-by is available. Where that white car is, I believe, we can get parked. So what I'm going to do is spin that round now, so we're facing the right way when we go to leave. Quickly spin round in here. You can see there's a lot of signage. No access to the beach in your car, so you cannot drive past this point. And if this little lay-by here is full, just back there on the side of the road, you've got several bits of off-road parking. So just get lined up in here, clear that front so we're not on the yellows. Okay, so I'm parked down there just in front of that white car. It's just a couple of minutes walk up to here, and you've got a barrier here. This stops you from driving down the track. As you can see, you've got a little access point around the side, and I've been told it's about a 10-minute walk, so we'll now get our skates on, see if we can get down on the beach and get set up for the next shower. Okay, so from the gate you just move up this little bit here, go past the pig field, and then we've got a little track there which is the one leading to the beach. That's the farmer's field. Don't go down there. That's this little one here. Less than 5 minutes coming down that little track and you'll come to this point here. Now don't carry on there, especially if it's dark. That's the edge of a cliff there. What you do is you take this track here and we go up and around the edge of the field. I think the get down is a little bit further along the top here, so that's what we'll do next. But definitely do not go near there at night because that's a sheer drop, probably 50 feet onto the beach. Okay, so that's obviously the church over there, and the access point, which was just down there somewhere. I can point it out. When we came in there, we walked all along this track next to the pigs, all along the cliff top. We're up to this part here, so as we go through there, just around the corner should be the slope to get down. So it's about another 10 minutes, so that's 15 minutes in total so far. Good job I lighted my gear up. Okay, so once you get to the end of that little bit of footpath I showed you, you come through that little gap there in the trees, down onto this footpath, and then you've got the walk-on access to the beach just up there. So yeah, I reckon about 20 minutes. Took me a little bit longer because I've got the hound with me, she keeps stopping and sniffing. But 20 minutes, I've lightened my gear off. Let's get down on the beach. Finally made it, and this is obviously where the path levels out onto the beach for your access. Up that way is Ben Acre, and round the corner from that is Kessingland. And then we track back all along the cliff there where I just walked. And probably somewhere about, I don't know, where are we? Somewhere along that bit there is where we first reached the cliff. And in the distance there you can see Southwold and the pier. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's a nice flat walk and it's on decent footing. The only thing I would say, I would advise obviously, is travel a bit light. I think if you've got a trolley you'll be okay. It's a little bit tight down the alleyway, but once you get down through that, that's a pretty flat walk. Now I reckon between 15 and 20 minutes, depending on how fast you can manoeuvre. So what I'm going to do now, someone's already having a rest, so I'm going to get my gear set up and then we'll go through what we're going to do. Okay folks, I've finally cooled down after my little hike. I thought I'll get some gear together and get ready. And I've actually made a schoolboy error, something I've not done in 30 years of fishing. I've actually arrived at the mark without a piece of equipment. Now, it's not the main piece of equipment. There's the two rods. It's not the reels. It's not the leads or the rigs. It's not the dog. So what can it be? Somehow I've managed to leave home and leave my tripod in the garage. So, two options. 40 minutes home and 40 minutes back. Puts me here bang on high tide. Don't think it's really worth the effort. I could use that, the tripod for the camera, but then I'd have nowhere to put the camera. Or I could improvise. So, failing going over there, chopping a branch down and burying it and using that as a rod rest, I bring you the David Sycamore improvised rod rest. It holds up to 6 rods. It's perfect. It's just behind the high water line, which I would assume is this ridge of shingle here. Yeah, and it's certainly not going to move in the wind. So that's what we're going to do today. It'll be very interesting. It won't make no difference to the fishing. So I brought my light rods today and fixed ball reels. Probably going to target sole or maybe bass. Got a sneaking suspicion there might be a whiting or two out there looking at that sea. It's got a nice colour to it. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get these rods set up, then I'll bring you back with the baits. But this will be today's rod rest. So rig wise, for my first rod, which I'll be targeting the soles or flatties or whatever, I started off with that little 2-hook boom rig, size 4s, and a little 5-ounce pyramid. I've just had a little cast around with a plain 5-ounce and it seemed to stay out in front, so I'll give that a try. Should that not work, I can always add a small grip lead. I've got up to 6 ounces in grip leads, and I've also got an alternative rig to that, which is a 1 up and 1 down, same size 4s. Got a few metal beads on there to weigh the snoods down onto the bottom, so that'll be targeting the sole. So on the second rod I'll probably put a pennel rig on and size 2.0 hooks or something like that, where I can fish either a bunch of worm, small squid. I've also got a few crabs and bits and pieces, so that'll be fishing for bigger fish, and we'll see how we go. So moving on for the baits today, the main baits I've got about 25 fresh lug, which are just about hanging on, and they left over from Monday. I've got some absolute monster fresh blacks there, which are going to be targeting the soles. I've also brought a few squid with me, mini squid as well, and I've got a little box there with a few hermits in, a few raw prawns and some peeler. They're all still defrosting at the moment, so if I want to have a try for something a bit later, roll the dice if you like, I might put one of them out on a bigger rig later on, see how we're getting on. But first of all, it's going to be the worms, tipped off with either squid, or I've got a little few mackerel strips in there, and we'll start off scratching out, see what we get. So I've got these lovely black sticky lug, as I say. What I like to do with them is get them on the needle. I've cut them into sort of 1.5 inch pieces like that, get them on the needle, and I just like to put a little bit of cotton up and down just to give it a little bit more grip on the hook. Sometimes if you put these blacks on, they end up slid down and sitting in the bend of the hook, nothing on the shank. But with this little bit of cotton, that grips the shank, and there's 3 there prepared, ready to go. I can just literally needle them straight onto the hooks. So that's what I'll do next. Right, that's the first rig baited, ready to go. I've got fresh black on the top hook, and I've got 2 tiny little fresh lugs on the bottom hook. So I'm going to use them up because they're, as I say, they're not in the best condition, but they're still definitely usable. I'll get that cast out now, and then I'll sort the other rod out. It's the first cast. I've put it probably 35-40 yards out. It's fairly deep, I found, when I had the little test cast. Not quite sure how well you can see the rod tops. It's a little bit white on a white background, but there you go. Wheel fishing. Yeah, so what I'm decided to do with the second rod is I'm going to go with a big fish bait straight away, and what I've done is put a hermit on there. That's on a little pulley rig. 2 2.0s, and we'll put that out. We're probably a little bit further. See if that does anything. Okay, so both the rods out now, and what I've done is set the rod with the crab on, the hermit crab, is the higher one out of the two. And I've punched that well out to the left, quite a bit further out as well. And I'll scratch around on the one that's the lower, which is the right hand rod. That'll be my little scratching rig. What I have just noticed in the far distance there is like a section of water just behind these trees here on the left. There's a section of water, and down there in the distance I can see probably at 5,000 like Canada geese. So what I'm going to have to do is put my dog's lead on and attach it to that log out there, just in case you get a glimpse of them, because I think she'll be off and there's no way I'm catching her. Now I'm going to give that left hand rod a look, because it's banging around, hasn't really stopped. It's potentially only crabs, but I had a couple of good little pulls on it there. Let's have a look. Yep, that bait's been battered. Looks like crabs. So, rebait with that. Let's try a whole raw prawn this time. Some pretty meaty clouds in the background over Kessingland, but behind me it's blazing hot sunshine. Quite impressed with my rod rest. Doing well up to now. So just checking the phone, I've got about 2 hours now to high tide, just after 5 o'clock. I haven't had no interest yet that I've seen. I've had a couple of little taps, but I don't think they were proper bites. Left hand rod again, it's got a full raw prawn on there now. I'm getting the same off of that, little rattles and pulls, but I think they might be crabs. So as I say, I've come down and I've basically fished. Bit my necessity today. I did walk a bit further up, but when I realised I didn't have my rod rest, I had to sort of come back and use this. Now if I'd have had my rod rest, personally I would have gone up that way a little bit, probably, I don't know, halfway back to where we accessed that cliff, where that little bit of old dead wood is on the cliff there. I'd have gone back to that. There's a little point there. I've fished there before, done really well, but as I say, today it was a necessity to have something to prop the rods up on. There is 2 or 3 of these logs all the way along, but going that way. And if I'd have been anywhere near those birds, I think it would have been trouble. So yeah, I've got 2 hours to go to high. I'll probably fish till about 6 tonight, because by the time I've packed up and walked back, it's going to be getting towards dark. So don't really want to be dragging through those top of the cliffs and the alleyway after dark. I have got a head torch, an emergency one I always leave in there. But yeah, so I've got myself about 3 hours fishing, I would say. So we'll see if we can scratch something out. I'm going to continue on the right hand rod with the little bits of worm. They're really close in this time. Hasn't produced anything yet, but if that sunlight dropped down a bit, it might. And what I'm going to do is experiment. I'm even going to put on something like a smaller hook and a bit of squid or a bit of mackerel strip on the other one, just to see if there's any whiting out there if it gets really desperate. But That's not for now, it's a bit later on. So I'll plug away in it for now and bring you back if anything happens. So the next bait going out on the big rod is another hermit, but this time I've actually mounted it on a dongle rig. It's a 3/0 circle on the top, and there's the loop to attach it to the imp. Juice is oozing out of that. So that's going to be the next one on the big rod. Still nothing much to report on the bite front. At the moment I've now got a hermit out on the left. I'm just about to bring that right one in for another bait change. I'm doing them about every 10 to 15 minutes regardless, just to keep the baits fresh. Perhaps go out a little bit further this time. I've been like 10, 15, I'll probably do 20 yards now with the right hand rod, just to search out, see if I can find one. Well, what can you say? I don't know if it's a blank saver or not, but that, believe it or not, is a little weaver. So, I don't know if I can even class that as a blank saver, but technically it is. Just got to work out how to get it off the hook now. Well, there he is, little critter, and you can see his little black spine there. When they get a bit bigger, that can produce a rather nasty sting. So, but I'm going to put him back. He's not done nothing to me yet, so I'm going to stick him back. Two tiny little fresh lugs now on that right hand rod. I'll put that a little bit further, about 25 yards this time. Searching around. Big rod next going out is a 3 or 4 inch piece of black with a bit of squid whipped down the side of it, so squid and black wrap. That may even give me an indication of whether there's any whiting, because the squid and lug combo. Mind you, saying that, if the whiting are there, they'll take anything. I'm very surprised I haven't had at least one small pin whiting so far. But we haven't blanked, and the new rod rest has been christened. Almost the same as it went out, virtually untouched. And that was a nice fresh hermit. Well, it's just approaching 4:30 now and still struggling for a bite. It's now overcast, the sun's completely disappeared, and behind me is like the biggest black cloud you've ever seen in your life. And so I expect at some point we're going to get some rain. But 4:30, what, I've got another hour and a half, maybe an hour and 3/4 to try and scratch something out. It can definitely fish a lot better than that. I've been on here when you couldn't put any sort of bait whatsoever in the water without it getting ripped to shreds by schoolies within minutes of it going in. So the fish do get along here. The whole coast at the moment is fishing very patchy. You'll get one day on a particular venue where someone will go and have a load of fish, and the very next tide or the very next day 4 or 5 people who have seen the report will go down there and all blank. It's the same all over at the moment. As soon as the shoals of whiting come in numbers, then at least you can have something to get bites in between. But then on the negative side of that is, while you're getting these tiny little pin whiting, none of the better fish are going to find your baits in time. So a bit swings and roundabouts. Yeah, I've got a few little spits of rain on the back of the shelter now. Just coming up to the top of the tide, should I say? Any time now. But that black and squid cocktail just came in as good as it went out. Not a mark on it. That tells me there's no white in here. I just had a chat with a guy as well, and he's been lure fishing bass further back up Southwold and up near the harbour. He hasn't had nothing today, but he's had them recently, and he just said there hasn't been any whiting off this beach yet this year, which I find, you know, it's surprising really, considering how many are at the Yarmouth end. Dongled king prawn. Probably about another 5,000 birds just landed then up there. Didn't quite catch it, but there is absolutely thousands of them on that bit. They're probably coming in to roost for the night. Okay, still running through the change. A bit of fresh blacks on the bottom, and I've got a strip of mackerel now on the top hook on its own. The next bait for the big rod baited up, and that is a crab and black blood pennelled up. So that'll be the next try on the big rod. She's after my prawn. That's what she's after. Hiding around the back there now. I can see you. I can see you. What are you doing? Crafty. Unfortunately, it's another one of them critters, and it's those weavers again with the spikes on the back, a nasty sting. So get that rag, get that off. Yeah, the last thing you want to be doing is getting stung by one of them with that long walk back. So yeah, I'll just use the big cloth, plenty of layers, so there's no way the spine could get to me. Unhooked him and flipped him back in. Looks like that weather that was coming over, and the weather we got forecast for sort of 7 o'clock onwards tonight, there's more out to sea at the moment. It's black as the ace of spades out there, and it looks like it's heavy rain. Behind us, where it's coming from at the moment, is looking not too bad. So might get away with it. I've only got about half an hour left now of the session. Just coming up to 5:45. I said I'm going to pack up about 5:15. That'll give me 15 to 20 minutes to get back to the car, get all my gear off and get away. So I've probably got one more cast on the big rod, maybe another refresh of the baits on the smaller rod. I'm going to start packing a few bits and pieces away. So unfortunately it's not been another fish filled episode, but at least you get the gist of, you know, how to get here, where to park, what sort of walk you're going to be faced with at the end of it. You got the warning of the edge of the cliff, so as you come down that little lane in the middle of the night, for instance, pitch black, you could quite easily topple off the end of that cliff. There's nothing to stop you, so at least it gives you an awareness of that, if nothing else. Just the start of the appearance of a little bit of weed now. It's what I would describe as cabbage. It comes off easy enough, but it's starting to build up on the leader knot on the rig. I haven't had none all afternoon, so can't really complain. Probably got one more cast in each rod, and then I'm going to pack down some gear and head back. And what I'll probably do this time is, once I'm all loaded up and start, I'll time it and see how long it takes in one complete journey. Bearing in mind I've got a dog that sniffs every blade of grass going, it'll give you a rough idea about how long it's going to take in total to get from here back to the car. So thank you very much again for watching. I hope the information I've given you comes in useful. I think it certainly helps if you've never been to a venue before, because you can look on a map and see where the car's actually parked to the edge of the what looks like the edge of the road. You could quite easily think you're about 500 meters from the beach, but all you are is 500 meters from the edge of the cliff. When you get to the cliff, you've probably got to walk, I reckon the whole journey in total is about 1 kilometre. So it's 500 or 600 metres more down the beach before you can get down, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does if you watch the beginning of the video. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Hopefully next time there'll be a few more fish about, and I'll see you again.